On February 6, 2026, the Interbehavioral Research Lab at McNeese State University will be hosting the first International Congress of Interbehaviorism. If you don't know what interbehaviorism is, that's okay. Most people don't. That is sort of the point of the Congress. Our goal is to advance interbehavioral psychology and adjacent fields by sharing and discussing contemporary research, theory, and obstacles. The first day of the Congress comprises a one-day conference, which you can attend in person or online. The next 2 days consist of discussion among invited presenters. For more information, you can visit our website, www.ibxrl.com. In preparation for the Congress, we are asking each of the invited presenters some questions about themselves, their work, and interbehaviorism. In this video, we talk to me, Will Fleming. I'm an assistant professor at McNeese State University and co-director of the Interbehavioral Research Lab. People sometimes ask me where I'm from, and I usually say Kansas. Kansas is where I spent many formative years of my life, including my years pursuing undergraduate studies at the University of Kansas. I thought going there that I'd become a writer. I thought if I take classes on anthropology and applied behavioral science, maybe I could learn a thing or two about human behavior, write better characters, and better stories. But then I realized that you can use behavior science not just to write about human behavior, but actually solve problems. I started doing research with Claudia Dozier and Dave Jarmolowitz, and eventually I started working as a student assistant for Ed Morris in the Center for the History of Behavior Analysis. From there, I pursued graduate studies, my master's and doctoral degrees at the University of Nevada, Reno, under the advisement of Matt Lucy and Linda Hayes. I do research in different areas. In cultural behavior science, I am concerned with isolating events related to the persistence of cultural organization that can't just be described as reinforcers. If we can describe them as reinforcers, then we need behavior analysis in ways that we might not need all the constructs in cultural behavior science. I've also been concerned with studying the ethics of behavior scientists themselves, particularly when it comes to dissemination of what we call our behavioral technology, which is really just ways of behaving like us, seeing the world in terms of discriminative stimuli and reinforcers and the like, which I think might have risks for the communities that we're interacting with that we aren't really taking into account because we're not taking data on the way that communities change once they come into contact with our ways of thinking. I'm also concerned with developing what I've been calling orientationalism. Orientationalism is an extension of interbehaviorism that has been outfitted to account for molar organization like matching. I don't think interbehaviorism itself is able to describe matching very well, and I think tweaks need to be done to Cantor's psychological event equation in order to account for the relations between patterns described by the matching law. At the Congress, I plan to present on orientationalism, a molar extension of interbehaviorism that I began developing as a part of my dissertation under the advisement of Linda Hayes. Orientationalism shifts the focus of analysis from psychological events to orientations. What are orientations? You can think of them as a set of interrelated patterns that organisms participate in. Sometimes organisms are sleeping, sometimes they are eating, sometimes they are drinking. Orientationalism sees these all as discontinuous patterns of what are called functional contacts, which you can think about as interactions between responding organisms and stimulating stimulus objects. That whole set of patterns can be described as an organism's orientation. And because organisms sometimes participate in patterns with other organisms, we can also use orientationalism to describe shared orientations in which two or more organisms participate. I think this way of thinking is useful not only for things like describing matching in a system that is more consistent with interbehavioral postulates, but also for describing experimental data, like data produced through IRAP research, as well as data found in other facets and places in behavior science, like cultural behavior science. Only you can really answer that question. Why do I care about interbehaviorism? I care about it because it aligns with my values. I value participating in and contributing to natural science based on direct contact with things and events and patterns. I value systemization. I value the transparency of laying out all of your assumptions and your postulates and really putting it just all down on paper so that you can subject your own ideas, your own orientation to rigorous critique. And I value making meaningful differences, not just in science, but in the lives of people. There are several things you can do if you're interested in getting involved in interbehaviorism. First, read. Read Cantor. Read work by other interbehaviorists. Understand what interbehaviorism and interbehavioral psychology have been, what they are now, and the work that still needs to be done. When you think you have a good grasp, use it. Go to other parts of behavior science. Find problems that have been hard to solve. See if interbehaviorism can help there. And don't just think about behavioral problems. Think about scientific problems. Think about applying interbehavioral thinking to entire scientific enterprises. Cantor wasn't just an interbehavioral psychologist. He was a logician. He studied the logic of science. And I think there's a lot that can be done by just using interbehavioral thinking to understand and analyze the consistency of other behavior sciences, let alone just other sciences in general. And all of that work can help develop interbehaviorism and interbehavioral psychology. And once you have done some of that, once you have applied interbehavioral thinking, really sat with it for a while, and you have some good ideas about how you might use it to build on the work that other people have done to help solve problems, reach out to people who do interbehavioral work. Often, collaboration starts over email or just in a hotel lobby at a conference or through going back and forth on papers together. Science is a really cool thing, and you can participate if you've put in the work to understand where the current conversations are.